Mr. Trump, you appear before this court today to conclude this criminal proceeding by the imposition of sentence.
Yo, this is Judge Juan Merchant. Yeah. And he's the acting justice of the New York Supreme Court. He's the one that's speaking in this video. This is the Donald Trump hush money sentencing case. And this is audio from inside the courtroom. And we're here to listen to it, and we're here to maybe break it down as he's speaking. I will be, if I have any questions about what he's saying, things that I don't understand, I'll look it up, and then I'll report to you. And if there's nothing and everything seems above board and everything seems clear, I'm going to just fall back and pay attention to what's being said. So let's get it.
Although I have taken the unusual step of informing you in advance of my inclinations, before imposing sentence, I believe it is important for you, as well as those observing these proceedings, to understand my reasoning for the sentence I am about to impose. The imposition of sentence is one of the most difficult and significant decisions that any criminal court judge is called upon to make. Our legislature sets the parameters for an authorized sentence, but it is a judge that must decide what constitutes a just conclusion to a verdict of guilty. A court is vested with broad discretion in determining what sources or evidence it may consider to arrive at an appropriate sentence. In doing so, the court must consider the facts of the case along with any aggravating or mitigating circumstances.
All right. I'm not going to speak for long. I just want to say, when he says the facts of the case, he's talking about facts. Undeniable, true, real facts. When Donald Trump was speaking, he was talking about what he's trying to make facts. And you can't make facts. You just can't. If it's happening, it's happening. If it's not, it's not. I also feel like he's trying to be soft. And, because he's about to come down on him with a wild sentence, but I don't know for sure. Hopefully. No.
In my time on the bench, I've been called upon to grapple with this weighty responsibility for countless defendants who have been found guilty after trial for an assortment of offenses, ranging from nonviolent Class E felonies to the most heinous of crimes, including homicides, sex trafficking, and child sexual abuse. The task is always difficult and deserving of careful consideration, whether the sentence be an unconditional discharge or incarceration of 25 years to life. However, never before has this court been presented with such a unique and remarkable set of circumstances. Indeed,
So it's a unique set of circumstances, which basically means there's no precedent for it. Which basically means now you got to use your brain and figure it out. Like, tell them what's going on.
it can be viewed fairly that this has been a truly extraordinary case. There was unprecedented media attention, public interest, and heightened security involving various agencies. And yet, the trial was a bit of a paradox because once the courtroom doors were closed, the trial itself was no more special, unique, or extraordinary than the other 32 criminal trials that took place in this courthouse at the same exact time. Jury selection was conducted.
All right, hold on. So far, everything he said didn't matter, right? But he's about to talk about the jury. And the jury selection is very, very important because people tend to ignore the fact that there was a jury of his peers, the way that it was intended. And they just gloss over that as if it's not a thing. So let's hear what he has to say about the jury.
Jury selection was conducted. The same rules of evidence were followed. Opening statements were made. Witnesses called and cross-examined. evidence presented, summations delivered, the same burden of proof was applied, and a jury made up of ordinary citizens delivered a verdict. And it was all conducted pursuant to the rules of procedure and guided by the law.
All right, that's very important to say. I thought he was going to talk more about the jury, but that's very important to say because Donald Trump likes to say that the justice system is against him and the court was unfair and all of this stuff. If you've watched any court show before in your entire life, you'll know that the plaintiff and the defendant both get an opportunity to choose who's part of the jury. Excuse me. So his lawyer was part of this too. So if you didn't like the people that you chose, you shouldn't have chosen them. That's on you as much as it's on the other people.
Of course, part of what made it feel somewhat ordinary was the outstanding work, preparation, and professionalism of the clerks, court officers, court reporters, security personnel, and the entire staff of this building who did their jobs as they would with any other criminal trial.
Yo, he has to say all of this stuff, and it's sad. He has to say all of this stuff because Donald Trump so often goes out there and tells people that there's corruption in the court. It's not going to be fair. It's going to be a fake trial. It's going to be a sham trial. It's a witch hunt. He says so much stuff about the court that is against what's actually happening that the judge during the sentencing has to ensure the public and ensure everyone, like that's in the courtroom, that everything that happened was above board. That's crazy.
So while one can argue that the trial itself was in many respects somewhat ordinary, the same cannot be said about the circumstances surrounding this sentencing. And that is because of the office you once occupied and which you will soon occupy again. To be sure, it is the legal protections afforded to the office of the President of the United States that are extraordinary, not the occupant of the office. The legal protection
Run that back.
of the President, be sure, it is the legal protections afforded to the office of the President of the United States that are extraordinary, not the occupant of the office. The legal protections, especially within the context of a criminal prosecution, afforded to the office of the President have been laid out by our founders, the Constitution, and most recently interpreted by the United States Supreme Court in the matter of Trump versus the United States, which was decided on July 1st, 2024. As with every other defendant in your position, it is my obligation to consider any and all aggravating and mitigating factors to inform my decision. Some of those aggravating factors have already been articulated in my Sandoval ruling at the start of this trial and by my recent written decisions on December 16th and January 3rd. Thus, they need not be repeated at this time. However, the considerable, indeed, extraordinary legal protections afforded by the office of the chief executive is a factor that overrides all others. To be clear, the protections afforded the office of the President are not a mitigating factor. They do not reduce the seriousness of the crime or justify its commission in any way. The protections are, however, a legal mandate, which pursuant to the rule of law, this court must respect and follow.
I have to stop that. So, the sentencing guidelines for the president are a legal mandate based on what he said, right? But it doesn't seem like it would be because when the crimes happened, he wasn't president. That's the only gray area for me. Like all of this stuff happened with Stormy Daniels. He's paying hush money to stop it from going public during his campaign, but he was trying to stop it from going public during his campaign. So it happened before he campaigned the first time. So he wasn't president when this stuff happened, but he became president, and everything is cool. Like maybe Diddy should have ran for president. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Jeffrey Epstein should have ran for president. Maybe all of these people that have legal trouble should run for some type of office that'll protect them. They might not have success like Donald Trump had, but it's worth a try. If you could commit a crime in 97 and then, I don't know what year the hush money stuff is from. I'm just saying a year. If you can commit a crime in 97 or 95 or 83 and then become the president in 2016 and again in 2024, and then all of those problems go away from 97 to 95 and 84 and 83 or whatever, then what are we doing? Does that make sense? I don't think it was made to be that way. I think it was made in another way. Let's just say that. I don't want to go too crazy with this.
However, despite the extraordinary breadth of those protections, one power they do not provide is the power to erase a jury verdict. It is clear from legal precedent, which until July 1st was scarce, that Donald Trump...
I'm going to run it back. What they cannot do is erase the jury verdict. The jury convicted him, not the judge. The judge is just doing the sentencing. So in the future, when Trump talks about the judge, remember that. He's never going to talk about the jury. He doesn't even acknowledge that there was more than one person that was in charge of paying attention to all of the facts and evidence that was brought forward. He always just talks about the origin of the situation and the fact that it should have never happened, or the judge was unfair.
It is the power to erase a jury verdict. It is clear from legal precedent, which until July 1st was scarce, that Donald Trump, the ordinary citizen, Donald Trump, the criminal defendant, would not be entitled to such considerable protections. I'm referring to protections that extend well beyond those afforded the average defendant who winds their way through the criminal justice system each day. No, ordinary citizens do not receive those legal protections. It is the office of the president that bestows those far-reaching protections to the office holder. And it was the citizenry of this nation that recently decided that you should once again receive the benefits of those protections, which include, among other things, of this protections to the office holder. And it was the citizenry of this nation that recently decided that you should once again receive the benefits of those protections.
Wait. How was it the citizens of the nation? I'm going to look that up. That don't seem right.
Which include, among other things, the Supremacy Clause and presidential immunity. It is through that lens and that reality that this court must determine a lawful sentence. After careful analysis, in obedience to governing mandates, and pursuant to the rule of law, this court has determined that the only lawful sentence that permits entry of a judgment of conviction without encroaching upon the highest office in the land is an unconditional discharge, which the New York State Legislature has determined is a lawful and permissible sentence for the crime of falsifying business records in the first degree. Therefore, at this time, I impose that sentence to cover all 34 counts, Sir, I wish you Godspeed as you assume your second term in office. Thank you. I am the judge, which permits entry of a judgment of
Wait, first of all, the citizens of the nation didn't afford him those protections. Actually, like constitutional basis and presidential immunity and judicial precedents and things of that nature, right? But yeah, this is what he said didn't really sit well with me.
conviction without encroaching upon the highest office in the land is an unconditional discharge, which the New York State Legislature has determined is a lawful and permissible sentence for the crime.
So a non-conditional discharge. A non-conditional discharge is what actually happened. That's crazy. I'm gonna close out, right? But I was hoping that like there was some type of instance where he got elected, which was, I didn't want him to get elected, but I also was sort of relieved that he did get elected because I feared personally that it would be heightened how do I say it? It'd be like heightened culture war between citizens. So when he got elected, I was like, all right, at least we don't gotta like pop on all of these people that don't like us. Now that he's president, I'm like, okay, he's president, we'll deal with it the same way we dealt with it before, and we make it work. It's looking like it's gonna be a lot worse this time. And I mean, I'm here preparing. I'm, optimistic and thinking, maybe we will, come together in a more efficient way and things of that nature. But I'm also very, very, very concerned about the things that are being done as far as like his cabinet is concerned. So what I thought was going to happen was they were going to sentence him, like actually sentence him, and let's say he got a year for every sentence, for every count, and went to jail. Like that's what I honestly thought, that possible that he go to jail, because I don't believe still to this day, even though I guess I'm gonna have to accept it, but I don't believe that the sentencing was correct because he wasn't in office when he committed the crime. So you shouldn't be able to commit crimes all your life and then become president and then be able to escape those crimes. That seems like a bad precedent to set for an American. And just because you become president means that you were an angel in the past. I don't like that. But it is what it is, and we're gonna have to deal with it. But I don't gotta like it. So, yeah. Let's just prepare. All right.